Thrilled to have here stopping by on the Rich Eisen Show. You got his book over there, Chris? Hold it up, please.
I got it. Let's
hold
do
it up.
Right
hold
here.
it up. Hold it up.
Bam!
You know, on our way home, everyone get it right now on Amazon. Mike Florio has written it, and all the proceeds go to a great cause. He's holding his own book right there. How are you, Mike? Good to see you.
Good. I wrote most of the words in it, and I didn't have to look many of them up.
It's perfect in time for the holiday season. All right, your impression of what came out of the owners' meeting. What leaps out to you, Mike?
I always think it's interesting when the press conferences that conclude a league meeting have a political tone to them. And I don't mean in the traditional politics sense, but there's an objective here from the league office. The league office is trying to muster maximum support to get rid of the hip drop tackle. You don't have the commissioner and Troy Vincent, the executive VP of football operations, go to a podium and say this has to go unless you're trying to make sure that in March, when they gather for the annual meeting, there will be at least 24 owners who agree that this has to go. So I'm always looking for that element where they're trying to set something up. And I think they're trying to get enough of us in the media to understand what the hip drop tackle is so we can explain to enough fans what it is and why it's a problem and why it's not an attack on defensive players and how defensive players can still do their job and why this is unsafe. And you were talking about star players being available to play games that would potentially be exported to another country.
Yes.
Well, if star players aren't available to play because they're injured from a hip drop tackle, like Tyreek Hill the other night, that's a problem. And so that was the big takeaway for me. They are determined to get rid of the hip drop tackle. They are making their case public, and I don't think they'd be so aggressive about it if they didn't have some concerns that it wasn't going to be successful. You don't have to take this public if you just know we're going to get to the league meetings in March and we're going to get our 24 votes.
So them talking about anything publicly you think is a politicking moment and it's an audience of 32? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
I think that there's a wrinkle along those lines to it. If they weren't concerned about having the votes, they wouldn't be trying to make their case. They just wait until March and count the votes. Unless there's a PR element at play here where they want us to know and they want us to be able to push back against those in the media who would just say, oh, well, this is stupid. I don't even know what a hip drop tackle is. Well, it's not that hard to figure out what it is. And Sims and I spent the first full hour of our program today talking about the various big picture items, the specific issues that are going to be addressed by the NFL going forward. And the hip drop tackle was the biggest one, making sure people understand what it is and what your alternatives are to grabbing someone around the waist, twisting them, and falling down on their legs in one fell swoop and potentially breaking their ankles. There are other ways to get guys on the ground. And again, they want everyone. I give the league credit. I say the league is often not proactive enough. They spotted this play. They spotted this trend. They recognized the risk. They've identified it and given it a name, and now they're determined to get rid of it. Usually it doesn't happen that way, so I think the league's done a good thing here to protect the health and welfare of players.
And you are also, as you just showed right there, an observer of the language coming from the league being a high indicator of their intentions and a great indicator of their intentions. I believe when there is a rule change in the ether, you'll sometimes hear, we're talking about it, but we don't really believe there's much momentum for it or a need. You'll hear sometimes, you know what, it's hardly ever happening, so why do we need to address it? But we'll still talk about it. And then you'll hear Troy Vincent say aloud, as he did into a microphone yesterday, about the ball being fumbled through and out of the end zone going to the defense, that rule that I have been howling about from this chair and everywhere else about needing to change, and hearing the same thing I just said to you, the setup, oh, what doesn't really happen, all that business. Him basically starting to opine about changing it and discussing it and saying, do we need to give the team that fumbles it another chance? And I heard that. I'm like, well, that's new. So do you think this rule is actually being discussed to change this time around?
Yep. Rich, one of the many essays in Playmakers, the book that came out in 2022, is focused on what I believe and you believe is the worst rule in football. It makes no sense. It's an unfair punishment to the offense. and it's an unjustified reward for the defense. They've done nothing to secure possession of the ball, yet they're given possession of the ball. And it's as simple as the guy fumbles at the 2, the ball trickles out of bounds just short of the pylon. It's the offense's ball at the spot of the fumble. If it nicks the pylon, the defense has the ball at the 20. It's never made sense to me. It's a vestige of days where they put a lot more importance on the end zone. In fact, there was a time when the forward pass, if it landed incomplete in the end zone, was a touchback. And the defense got it at the 20. But the fact that this was brought up not in reaction to some team getting screwed by it is significant to me, because I always thought it would take a Super Bowl. Yeah. Having it happen in the Super Bowl and millions of casual fans saying, what the hell was that, to get it to change? I think they just recognize it's unfair. And the unfairness applies both ways, offense and defense. It's just unfair to both teams involved that you would have that kind of a punishment coupled with that kind of reward when the defense has done nothing to secure possession of the ball.
Counselor, you and I could be character witnesses in each other's presentation of facts if either one of us are called to try this case. But because you are a man of law and a man of letters and understanding that there is another point of view, I present, I guess, would you say you are the public defender of the defense of this law, Chris Brockman? What would you have? What would you call yourself? What would you say?
Sure, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Cherry picking a rule from when only a handful of teams actually use the forward pass, not a great argument. I expected more out of you, Mike.
Don't make it personal.
No,
State your facts.
No, I'm just kidding.
State your facts.
I'm just kidding. But unfair to the defense. Literally every new rule favors the offense. So you want to do another one? Like you can't touch receivers.
Yes.
Bill Polian cried.
Your best. Do I need to help you make your best case? Your best case is talking about the end zone. That the end zone is a different piece of property as opposed to the rest of the field.
Literally, don't fumble. Just don't fumble. The idea is the ball is sacred. Take care of the football. So you're going to get a do-over for losing the ball.
But Chris,
why are we going to do that?
Chris, but if the ball goes out of bounds at the 1-inch line, you still get possession.
Well, guess what? Football's a game of inches. Football's a game of inches.
The pylon.
I think Al Pacino said that. It's a game of inches. It's a weird ball, weird-shaped ball, so it takes weird bounces. That's just the way it goes. Like, you just don't like something, so you want to change it. This literally happens, what? When was the last time it happened? Has it happened this year?
It happened. Justin Jefferson, week 2, it happened. It's happened also. Somebody else later in the year did it. The Falcons, I think, had it happen in their first game against the Buccaneers week 7. But when it happens, it creates such an unsatisfying outcome. It doesn't make sense.
For whom?
Well, for the offense. But every team has an offense. It's going to apply to all 32 teams equally. The rule helps everyone's offense. And look, I think your better argument is that the end zone is sacred ground. Rich was going there. Chris Sims and I argue about this all the time.
Yes.
He calls the end zone North Korea. And if the ball goes in North Korea, you lose the ball.
I mean, that's pretty extreme, but I'll ride with him since we agree.
Well, I didn't know we were going geopolitical. Wow.
It's the 45th parallel?
No, it makes a point. Yeah, you score a touchdown if it creases the 45th parallel. I like it. Is that really? Okay. Well, you've got your Chris, I've got my Chris, but I do believe, hearing the language that I heard, that's a shift. Would you not agree there's a shift?
Yes.
That's a shift. Yeah.
Troy Vincent doesn't send messages accidentally. He sends messages intentionally. And I think that's being put out there for us to know that it's coming. And they just have to hope they get through this season and, more importantly, through this Super Bowl without it happening, because I have said for years that's the moment when they will change it. So why not change it before that happens?
And you and I are lockstep on that one. That is for sure. So what do you think the league is? The league, I mean, Roger Goodell did make an interesting point yesterday when everyone's like saying the officiating's an issue, and certainly what happened in Kansas City. And his answer is, well, they actually got a call right, and you're complaining about it, essentially was his message. So what do you think is the state of officiating? You knew there would be a full-throated support of officiating from the commissioner and Troy Vincent, and that happened yesterday. But what do you think is happening on that front right now?
Well, and look, here's the caveat to what Goodell said. It's the point Dan Orlovsky made earlier this week on NFL Live on ESPN, where he showed the various times Kadarius Toney was lined up offside earlier in the game. It wasn't called. If you call it once, then maybe he lines up right the rest of the game. Why do you wait until crunch time to throw the flag for something he's doing repeatedly? Rich, what I've been saying for years, they need to take the current officiating function, tear it down, and rebuild it, reimagine it with all current technologies in mind. They've been pushing for years, and it's still out there. I found the link to the website earlier today. A first down marker that is laser based. So when you were in the stadium, you actually see the green line. It would be a green line that shows how far the team has to go to get a first down, and everyone can see it. Why not have a blue line that signifies the line of scrimmage? So we don't have to play this guessing game, and you don't have to have a receiver looking to the line judge who's going to say yes or no, and you don't have to have this inconsistency. There's no guesswork. There's no misunderstanding. The line is there, and everyone knows whether or not the guy's on the right side of it. No one has to engage in speculation about lining up because that has nothing to do with the game. If a guy's a foot over the line, it doesn't change anything. Why do we want to put that burden on somebody if it's unnecessary? That's just one example of how you can completely reimagine officiating if you say we're taking every modern technology and infusing it into how we determine where and when and how the rules are complied with or violated, and get rid of the 2 sticks and 30 feet of chain link that they've been using since 1920. I found a picture today of an old game where they're out there with that stick. The only benefit of that stick is it gives you a little bit of drama when they pull the stick. I'll trade the drama for certainty.
And you know what's an interesting, this is Mike Florio here in the Rich Eisen Show. This is a good time to have this chat, is I think the NFL should hook up with XFL, USFL, and bring it in-house. And I understand that the minor leagues, so-called minor leagues, are really college football, right? Where the minor leagues for the NFL in college football is where players can get their games going and work on their games and mature. But there still needs to be a developmental aspect of this sport that we are seeing come home to roost with offensive linemen not as fast or as agile as the defensive linemen that are coming into the league now that we're going to see at the combine. There's going to be new records broken. We're not seeing enough quarterbacks with enough experience coming in when there's, I believe, this week, Nick Mullins will be different starting quarterback 55 this season after Easton Stick is 54 tonight, Mike. That we don't see enough developmental stuff for players, coaches, and even officiating. Like what you just said, great idea. Let's show it in a spring league that the NFL is involved with, and teams are involved with, and scouts are involved with, and get it going there, and use all of that as a ground for development for every aspect of the sport. What do you think about that?
I think that's an excellent point. You're coming at the problem from the perspective of someone who cares about the game and wants what's best for the game. That's good.
Right.
You're not coming at it from the perspective of a business person, because developmental leagues don't make money. If developmental leagues make money, the NFL would have one. The NFL wouldn't have shut down NFL Europe or NFL Europa, which was its final name in 2007 when they finally abandoned it. They don't care about developing players and officials unless there's a profit to be earned while doing so. And that's not a criticism. It's a reflection of reality. It's a business. It's a zero-sum game. It's on you to develop whoever it is, offensive lineman, quarterback, official, sink or swim. You develop with the opportunities you're given, and we're going to have 53 guys on the team, and 11 are going to be on the field. And we don't care if there's this great story where a guy goes from bagging groceries to playing for the Iowa Barnstormers to playing in NFL Europe to going here, there, and everywhere before he becomes a Hall of Famer. We don't care. All we care about is what it's going to cost us to have something like that isn't going to generate profit. And the minute the XFL, USFL becomes consistently profitable is the minute the NFL will buy it, guaranteed.
But what about the idea? So it's going to take Jeff Bezos to call up Roger Goodell and say, man, I wish Easton Stick had more ability before tonight's game. I'm serious. Like, don't you think that the product would work better if all of these kids that are now backup quarterback? I mean, when you and I were kids, I mean, there were grown-ass men that were coming, like Steve DeBerg would come off the bench, right, with a million snaps under his belt as the backup quarterback. Now it's like, let's see Easton stick against Aiden O'Connell, who's, they're doing their best. But don't you think the product would be better if these guys had more experience coming into these games?
Before I answer your question,
yes, sir.
I just need to tell you a Steve DeBerg story that I wasn't aware of until a year or two ago.
We are all ears, Mike.
Do you know this story?
No.
Do you know the Steve DeBerg story about he injured his larynx and couldn't talk as loud as he needed to call out signals? So they put a speaker on his shoulder pads that would project his voice to his teammates. That actually happened. He had a boom box on his shoulder pad, so his teammates could hear him. Anyway,
he was the Radio Raheem of quarterbacks. Is that what you're saying?
It all happened because he got hit in the neck.
Say anything.
He got hit in the neck. I don't know if they were playing Peter Gabriel, but he got hit in the neck. So look, Rich, you're absolutely right about quarterback play.
Yes.
And about the quality of the games. Scoring's down. Last year, they had Troy Vincent on ESPN's pregame show to defend roughing the passer calls, and he said, look, we need to have healthy quarterbacks to have healthy ratings. If you start having a bunch of quarterbacks injuries, nobody's going to watch. Well, Rich, I got a tweet yesterday from the NFL media account that told me that 17.8 million people on average have watched NFL games this year, the highest since 2015. Yep. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Bad football, good football, ugly football, we're still going to watch it. It doesn't matter. Now, that might be short-sighted, but maybe it's not. Maybe football is so baked into what we do from September to February that it doesn't matter if the best quarterbacks aren't available. What matters is the game. We tune in to watch the game, and they can take a lot of solace in that.
Mike, thanks for the time. Let's one more time talk about your book and what it helps.
On our way home, $3.99. Ebook on Amazon, $9.99 for the print edition, and all proceeds go to the Humane Society of Harrison County, West Virginia, our local no-kill shelter, taking care of dogs and cats that have been rescued and are awaiting their permanent homes. And also, offer still stands. If you buy 10 of these and you send me the proof of purchase to Florio at profootballtalk.com, I will send you a free signed copy of the book. And thank you, Rich, as always, for the chance to get the word out.
Come on, man. It's a great cause, and you're the man. I appreciate it. If we don't speak in advance, have a great holiday, and we'll see you in the playoffs.
Same to you guys. Great conversation. Appreciate it.
Right back at you. That's Mike Florio right here on the Rich Eisen Show. He's got his Chris. I've got mine.
Hey-o.
Except you don't make North Korea references to the end zone. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.